All right. Hello and welcome to another Expert Insight interview. My name is John Golden from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM, joining you as usual from a sunny San Diego. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Mitch Mathews, who is in the heartland of America in Des Moines, Iowa. How are you doing, Mitch?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have this conversation, John.
Yeah, and Mitch is a creator of the Dream, Think, Do podcast. He's a success coach, serial entrepreneur. He helps people dream bigger, think better, do a lot more than do a lot more of what they were created to do. It's been rated number one by Huffington Post and is in the top 1% of all podcasts. Elite speaker, success coach, spent 20 years helping organizations like Nike, United Airlines, and NASA. And now you help thousands of life coaches from around the world build successful and profitable business. Easy for me to say. Profitable
Exactly.
businesses they
Rolls
love.
off the tongue, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we want to talk about a little bit today, actually. Mitch, what we're just talking about off air a little bit is that there are so many people out there with really rich experience, have a
Yep.
lot to offer, but don't realize that coaching could be an option for them to
Yeah.
actually not just generate income, but I think more people get into coaching because they genuinely really want to help people, or maybe
Yeah.
they have benefited from coaches. I know I have hired coaches during my career. So why do you think it is that people are reluctant, or they don't know how to get into the coaching business?
Well, I think you nailed it. I think one of the big things is people don't know how to do it. And because they don't know how to do it, then they often feel disqualified.
Mhm.
And it also, like, in being fully transparent, I've been a coach since 2002. We've literally trained thousands of coaches to build profitable businesses. I think one of the other things that keeps people from being coaches is there's a lot of people that are unsuccessful at it. And that might sound a little crazy for somebody who trains up coaches to talk about that. One of the reasons why people don't become coaches is they see a lot of people turn and burn, and it's because about 85% of the training programs that are out there don't train the business side of it.
Right.
And so that's, you're setting a lot of people up for success. But what's interesting is, as of late, as far as our training of people to build coaching and speaking businesses, is something we call the authority bridge. And that is, taking people like people in your audience, people that have had success, are currently having success, and not saying, hey, quit your job and become a full-time coach.
Mhm.
We always say, hey, add coaching to what you're currently doing. And for a lot of people, that really can be something that allows them to experience, yeah, and enjoy more income, but also more impact and more influence. And it allows them to get out there, reach more people, like you were saying, help more people, and do it in a way where they can actually get paid well to do it too. So
Yeah.
that's been an important conversation I'm having with more and more of our people. Like, I will say, the people that we are helping the most right now are gainfully employed, leading in different organizations. Not necessarily, they don't need to be a household name. They don't even
Sure.
need to be big on social media. It's just simply having the systems in place to make onboarding of clients super easy and making it work so it allows them to thrive while they're currently doing other things.
Yeah, and what's nice about that, Mitch, is then that you it means that you're being coached by a practitioner, as opposed to it's sometimes you're being coached, or a consultant who used to do
Right.
something and
Exactly.
now is
Yeah.
full time doing this. And that's not to say you can't be. Obviously, you can. There's some great ones, but particularly when you're starting off, it lends that extra level of credibility and maybe relatability because you're in the trenches yourself.
100%. Exactly right. I would say you're exactly right that there are coaches out there that have become less and less effective because they've lost touch. They've lost
Mm.
touch with the reality of the workplace. They became a coach to jettison themselves from corporate. And I totally understand it. I was in the pharmaceutical world. I got promoted into what I now call a bad fit job. And it wasn't a bad job. It was just a terrible fit for me. And
Mhm.
that was my wake up call, like a great reminder. I did want to be an entrepreneur. I did, want to become a coach and a speaker. So that bad fit job helped me to say, hey, this is what I want to do. And I did this process that we're exactly talking about. I stepped into what I now call the authority bridge and, went through the 3 phases that we talk about and teach on all the time. And I had to do that because I had built success in the pharma world. I moved up through a company, at a relatively young age, was helping to manage a $2 billion pharmaceutical company's training department, really enjoying it, all of those things, then got promoted into that bad fit
Mhm.
job. But I was well known within my company, but if I stepped outside or as I stepped outside that building, no one knew me. So I
Sure.
had to do some things to build authority outside that organization. But as I did that, what was beautiful was even though I was in this bad fit job and I was still delivering, I was still showing up, still really, working hard and hitting my numbers, doing all the things that I needed to do. I was building this thing on the side, which also allowed me to tap into my creativity, that allowed me to start to have the satisfaction I used to have in other positions. But now it was my own thing and I was getting to call
Right.
my own shots. And the third phase of this authority bridge phase is what we call independent authority. And that's when you have your fully fledged business, profitable business you're now doing full time. And not everybody has to do that. The first phase of the 3 phases of the authority bridge that we teach on is something we call covered authority, which is something you can move into. It's like you
Mhm.
have an amazing position, you have incredible success in what you're doing in your day job, but you're doing something like this podcast where you're bringing a ton of value. You're getting to have great conversations. You're building out your network.
Mhm.
You're getting to talk with, incredible people, all those
Yep.
kinds of things. That is a great example of covered authority where you're probably not dependent on its income, but it is something that's really allowing you to reach more people and to become known, which is
Yeah.
huge. And then the middle phase is where a lot of people stay, and it's great. It's called emerging authority. And that's, we've got a lot of people that, they are CEOs or high level executives or founders of an organization, and they drive an extra 50,000 to sometimes $250,000 a year, just doing it on the side.
Yeah.
And they never intend to move into that third phase. They never intend for it to be, a full-time gig, but they're tapping into their expertise. They're getting to use it in new and creative ways. They're getting to help people outside their organization. So it really, brings in a sense of, you know, uh, of both impact, but also a little novelty. They're getting to do
Yeah.
some new stuff and having some new projects and new challenges. And so it's really neat to see people actually having the impact, making some extra income, but also feeling really satisfied.
Yeah, no, it absolutely. I know, it's a great way of it's a great way of giving back while obviously receiving at the same time.
Right.
But so tell me, what are some of the characteristics you would say of a good coach? Like if somebody's watching and saying, "Oh, it sounds great, but I don't know, I don't know if I could be a coach. I don't know,
Yeah.
what does a coach do?" Because let's face it, most people don't know how to coach. It's
Right.
it's
Exactly.
not
Well, it's
something we're
funny.
ever
It's one of
taught.
those things that I think, coaching is a lot like selling. A
Mhm.
lot of people think they can do it. They
Right.
don't realize, like, there are some natural gift sets that help to make a person a better coach, and there are some natural gift sets that help to make a person a better salesperson. But there's also learned strategies and learned techniques that you can do to take the natural ability to the next level and to take somebody that's maybe not as naturally gifted and to actually become a very competent, salesperson or a
Mhm.
coach, right? So I love that there's a lot of crossover on that. So I always say, we've helped people build 6-figure coaching businesses sometimes on the side and sometimes full time, and some of those are 7-figure as well. But I always say, well, one, even though I definitely want them to get paid and paid well for that work because it's important work,
Mhm.
and as you well know, people pay more attention to the things they pay for. So,
Sure.
there's a lot of people that would love to coach but don't charge for it and they don't see the results. Well, it's partly because people don't have skin in the game. But I always say getting paid is important, but doing it, like wanting to do it, even if you didn't get paid, is one of the things you look for, is to be able to say, hey, are you in this to truly have an impact? Are you in this
Mhm.
to help people? It does need to start there, But I say equal parts. Like you have to be willing, and like the conversation starts because you want to have that impact and you would do it whether you got paid or not. But like it's almost a 50-50 thing. Like it has to start there, but at equal parts, you have to also be willing to get paid.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
interesting. We'll have people come into our program that have been trained by other programs that didn't have any business training. And we do a Q&A call, live Q&A call. And we had somebody recently who's new to our program, and he was lamenting that he was trying to help someone, but they weren't showing up for their coaching calls. They weren't getting their homework done. And I
Mhm.
stopped the person and I was like, "Hey, Mike, quick question. Did the person that you're talking about pay for this coaching, or are you
Yeah.
doing it pro bono?" And he's like,
Mhm.
I got to be real with you. It's pro bono. It's just
Yep.
it's one of my friends. I wanted to try some of this stuff out, all that stuff. And I said, I've got good news for you. I said, all of these problems evaporate when that person pays,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
when they pay, they are invested. They've got skin in the game. And I'm an expensive coach. And it's one of those things that what's wild about it is as my prices, as my fees have gone up, the quality of my client also goes up. Not just because I think, obviously if somebody can pay a higher fee, they've
Mhm.
probably had a certain amount of success, but I also know that as they invest more, they are freaking all in, like
Yeah.
they are committed. And that's what I tell people, when we actually go through the process of them onboarding.
Mhm.
Sometimes they'll say, well, do you have payment programs, breaking this thing up? And we do, offer some things, but it's still a substantial investment when they get started. And I said, here's the weird thing. And they're like, what? And I said, even though it's a substantial investment to get started, I want you to have a big goofy grin on your face when you process that payment. And
Mm.
they look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, and they were like, why would I have a big goofy grin on my face? They joke. They're like, I see why you would have a big goofy
Yeah,
grin
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Well, I pay this, but why would I have a big goofy grin on? And almost everybody that I talk with, they've been thinking about doing this for a while. They've been thinking about working with me, or they've been thinking about building a business, all those things. I'm like, you've been thinking about this for a while. And when you actually process that invoice, when you register, you can know this is it. This is go time. You're
Yeah.
all in
Mhm.
because you're this invested. And they're like, you know what? You're right. And it's funny because we will hear from people all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, I had the biggest, goofiest grin on, because they're like, you're right. I could feel that deep down on the inside. This is go time. And we do have ways for people to get started. We have fully online programs that allow people to get started at a lower price point, but
Mhm.
still get traction. But obviously, the one-on-one stuff is more expensive. But I always say, hey, that's the model you want to follow as well, right? Like you
Well,
want
that's
to
it.
have coaching that really makes people commit. And
Mhm.
and people are like, I'll never forget the people that are like, oh my gosh, I just had somebody sign up for a $20,000 coaching package and they were elated. Sometimes people are
Yeah.
like, will people feel bad? Will people be mad at me if they're making a bigger investment like that? And they're like, time and time again, they're like, oh my gosh, these people are like little kids because they're committed. And it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing. You can get a lot more done with somebody that's fully in.
Yeah, and I as I was saying off air, I mean, I can also vouch for the power of coaching. My first executive level job, the first thing I did was I went out and hired a coach, and at the time it was really expensive.
Yeah.
I perceived it rather
Right.
as being really
It was
expensive.
important, right? Yeah,
Yeah, but it was
absolutely.
important, and I said, "Okay," and I said to my wife, it's the first executive level job. I want to be the best I can be." And the
Yeah.
story I always tell to people is almost the first meeting, the coach said to me, "Okay, let's go through it again. What you want out of this?" And I said, "I want to be the best executive on this team." And she said, "Okay," said that's good. She goes, "Why don't you want to be the CEO?" And I said, "Well, I said, "Well, maybe one day, I'd like." And she goes, "No, forget
Yeah.
that maybe. This is your goal. You're going to be a CEO." And some years later, I became CEO of a couple of companies, right?
Yeah.
And if I look back now, the money I invested at that point is it was like buying a cup of coffee
Yep.
in what
That's
it
exactly
returned
right.
later on.
But isn't that amazing? Like you had to make that investment in yourself. And I
Mhm.
love, like, a good coach will allow you, like I always say, a good coach doesn't give you the answers, but a good coach helps you to see from perspectives you might not normally see. Like
Mhm.
a good coach might give you strategies, a good coach might give you some ideas, but the best coaches bring out your best. That's a coach's job, right? So
Mhm.
people ask me all the time, they're like, how can you coach people in different industries? Because 50% of my coaching business is people that are in industries I have no experience with. Like
Sure.
50%, I'm working with leaders and entrepreneurs and high level executives. And most of the time, I work with them in industries I have no experience with. And it's funny because at first they're like, why would I work with you as opposed to somebody that's an expert in my industry?
Mhm.
And I'll say, well, it's interesting. I said, the people that I work with as a coach, they tend to already be successful. And they're not looking for me for industry specific, product specific, service specific ideas. They have all the best ideas, or they have a team with all the best ideas. They're not looking for me to bring specific strategy. What they're looking for me is to help them to draw out their best, get past those things that they know deep down are holding them back, which is usually, the belief systems. It's like your coach saying, "Hey, why not be CEO?" Right? Like that
Yeah.
was in a blind spot for you. The best
Yeah.
coaches are doing that. So that's what I love as far as we train people up. The goal is to not have all the answers. The goal is to create a safe space to ask better
Mhm.
questions, hold them accountable in the way that they want to be held accountable, and then hold them capable of bringing
Yeah.
their best.
Yeah, because let's face it, I mean, if you want the domain expertise and stuff, go hire a consultant from your
Right.
business who understands, the business you're in. But as you said, and I think this is the thing also, Mitch, that people don't often understand is like just because somebody is on the surface like successful, or maybe they are successful, they're doing well and all that, doesn't mean that they don't suffer from limiting beliefs, doesn't mean that they have blind spots, doesn't mean that they have imposter syndrome, all of
Right.
these things, like, and to have, and oftentimes maybe if they're a CEO or the head, they have nobody to turn to, right? They have
Yep.
nobody to turn to.
That's exactly right. And that is, I think that as far as a coach, that's one of the best things that we can do is provide that safe space because you're exactly right. And as you move up that ladder, there are fewer and fewer people that you can have conversations with where you either trust people or I know, one of my niches within my coaching is I help high level leaders make decisions on things they don't want to talk to anybody else about.
Right.
And I've never, you'll be happy to hear this, John. I know I'm happy to say I've never had somebody confess an axe murder or something like that. Like what my guys are and women and men are dealing with is oftentimes they're needing to have some safe conversations around big decisions that they're like, hey, if I bring this up with my team will be open to it, but it could throw them off their game for 6 months,
Yeah.
or it could make them scurry in ways, like sometimes they're thinking about moving, a corporate office, or
Mhm.
they're thinking about making major changes in a product or a service. And they're willing to have those conversations with their teams eventually, but they need a safe space to think, "Hey, is this crazy? Does this make sense?
Mhm.
Should I even entertain this?" And sometimes the answer is definitely not. We need
Yeah.
to look for, other solutions first, or other solutions, inject new ideas in different ways. But sometimes the answer is absolutely yes to at least taking the next step. And they can go into that decision, those discussions, have those conversations with a lot more confidence and a lot more peace. So
Yeah.
that's a big part when I'm working with my executives and entrepreneurs and leaders. That's oftentimes what I'm doing is helping them prep for that next big step.
Yeah, and so, what do you see as maybe some of the commonalities among your the people who really excel at this? What are some of the characteristics they have?
Yeah, I love it. So, part of it does have to start with, having a heart for coaching and truly having an impact. But you also have to have a heart for making some money because those two
Mhm.
go hand in hand. Now, a big part of it, this might be crazy, but John, you'll get it both as a leader and as a podcast host, is you also have to be willing to shut up, which surprises some people.
Mhm.
Like, when I'm training up, executives, right? Part of the way, or one of the biggest ways they bring value as a leader, is to have the solutions, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
they move
Yep.
into a coaching role, one of the biggest ways they can provide value is the things we're talking about: asking questions, actually pointing to a different perspective, but not necessarily saying, there is your answer, but to say,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think? Right. So I always say there's two concepts that go hand in hand. Both are equally potentially offensive, but also wildly powerful. And that
Mm-hmm.
is, are you willing to shut up? And are you willing, or are you able to hold that person as capable?
Mm.
And what's interesting is I talk with leaders, and as they go through our coach training, what's interesting is they'll often say, hey, I realize, like, I'm doing this because I do want to sell some coaching. The idea of
Yeah.
selling $20,000 in coaching every quarter. That's great. They're getting to
Mm-hmm.
take extra vacations, or they're getting to
Yeah.
pay off their kids' college faster, or
Yeah.
they're getting to pay off a house faster, whatever. That's great. But they also tell me all the time, they're like, you know what? This coach training is actually making me a better leader, because they're
Mm.
often they realize that as a leader, they've often gotten to that role because they brought the solution, right? Like, they were
Yes.
the operator, they were the practitioner, they had the solution. But when they move into the leadership role, oftentimes the way they bring the most value is stepping into a coaching role of
Mm.
bringing those ideas out of their team. So they'll say, like, oh my gosh, I started this training because I wanted to be a coach, I wanted to
Yeah.
sell some coaching, but now I'm realizing this is also helping me be a better leader, because they're like, I'm asking more questions, I'm actually holding my team as capable. So it's, they're like, this is great because I love my clients, but my teams actually are working better and enjoying their work more because I'm being more of a coach than
Yeah, and
kind of
and that's
the
such a great
dictator.
and that's such a great shift of perspective, because as you know, especially when people are coming up and they're leaders, maybe they're entrepreneurs and everything,
Right.
they just the thing they struggle with most is handing things off. It's like
Yeah.
developing the next, because at the end of the day, they always have that nagging thing. It'd just be better if I did it myself, or if they
Right.
just did it my way. And on top of
Right.
that, too, as you know, most people's last experience of coaching was somebody standing on the sideline shouting at you and telling you what to do.
It's exactly right. Exactly right. Yep. And that is
So,
very different, right? Like
mhm.
an athletic coach tends to be very different than an executive or a success coach or a leadership coach, because an athletic coach needs to say, all right, we're going to do this play, we're going to
Yeah.
move here, I need you guys in, I need you guys out, all those things. That's great. That's how you bring value as an athletic coach.
Mhm.
But in this context, the way that we bring the value is so much different and a lot more empowering. But you're exactly right. Like, that's why we say it's foundational that you're able to hold your person as capable, because you do. Like, here's the other thing that's potentially offensive, at least for me, John, maybe not
Mhm.
for you, but I know
I'm
sometimes
I'm I'm
what
Irish, Mitch. Very, very
yeah,
hard, very
exactly.
hard to
You're willing to
offend.
go there. I love it.
I'm
So I
pretty
know
pretty
this applies.
impervious to offense.
Exactly. I love it. So I know this applies to me as a leader of my team, but it also applies to me as a coach with my clients. Is sometimes team members and sometimes clients come up with solutions that I don't think are going to work.
Mm.
And what's wild is that we do have a line. Like, I work with my clients on, hey, uh, I will put my consulting hat on from time to time if you want me to, but I will ask
Mhm.
for their permission. I'll say, hey, I have some ideas or I have some concerns. Would you want me to put my consultant hat on for a couple of minutes and lay those concerns out? Where it doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean that you're
Mhm.
wrong, but I have some opinions emerging. Do you want me to throw my consultant hat on? I'll share those, or I can keep my coaching hat on and we can keep going. Most of the time, they'll be like, heck no, throw that consulting hat on. Let's talk. Right. And what I will do is I'll say, hey, I'm a little concerned about this, or I've tried this, it didn't work for me. Now,
Mhm.
and we'll talk through it, but then I'll often say, hey, just because it didn't work for me doesn't mean it might not work for you. Right. And
Yeah.
that's where it's potentially offensive. I have a team member that is relatively new, and she came on. We were trying to do something. We'd done it. We tried some different things. She came up with a strategy that I personally had tried that didn't work about 2 years ago.
Mhm.
She came up with a strategy. I listened to her reasoning. I did not voice that it did not work for me in the past, because there was a part of me, John, that thought, you know what? Sometimes failing, sometimes crashing and burning is the best teacher. So I
Oh,
thought, you know what? We'll keep the, the potential for damage small. We'll keep the experiment small and contained, and she'll really learn when it doesn't go well. Boy, this is really going to be beneficial. She tried it and it totally worked for her, right? Like, did not work for me at all. Totally worked for her. Like, first pass,
mhm.
nailed it. Did it again, nailed it, right? Like, and there was a part of me that's like, damn it. Like, why didn't it work for me, right? But different time, different person, different, all those
Exactly.
things, right? So that's a big part of leadership, but that's also when you're a coach, sometimes you need to let them do their thing. We always say, treat it like you're a scientist, right? And
Mhm.
a scientist, when they plan, they're smart enough to call it a hypothesis, right? A scientist calls it a hypothesis. And I love when you go to the dictionary and look up the definition of hypothesis, it says a well educated guess.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
really, that's the best definition of a plan as well. It's a well educated guess at how something's going to go. And what I love about a scientist is then a scientist moves into experimenting. And experimenting means you take action, you do something, you try it out. And then a scientist looks to see, well, did it go the way we planned? If it didn't, that's learning. If it did, that's learning. And then you
Mhm.
evaluate and adjust and then keep going. That's what we call the scientific method, right? Same thing for coaching, to be able to say, all
Mhm.
right, this is how we think it's going to go. Let's experiment, let's try it, and then let's evaluate and adjust. If it goes the way we thought, great. If it doesn't go the way we thought, great. As long as we're learning and moving forward, right? And that might mean a little what seems like a loss of time or a loss of money. You can limit that potential, but I will tell you that that is the way, as you well know, to grow and to
Yes.
build, right? And
Yeah.
so, oftentimes what I see leaders trying to do, or people who are trying to build a business, is they try to eliminate any chance for things not going well. And boy, that's a recipe for disaster and a recipe for staying stuck.
Absolutely.
And so we always
Absolutely.
put that emphasis on moving forward and learning. And boy, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, you gotta experiment, you gotta try things, and but on the flip side, if they don't work, you gotta know how to abandon them very quickly and pivot and change direction.
exactly,
So don't
exactly.
chase, don't let your ego get in the way and chase after something that is clearly not going to work. So listen, Mitch has been fantastic. Great, great information. All of Mitch's information will be below this video. But before you go, please do remind people about you and what you do.
Absolutely. So people can go to mitchmathews.com. We spent our whole marketing budget coming up with that creative
Yeah.
domain name, but go to mitchmathews.com. That you can see what we're up to. One of the things that we do is a podcast called Dream, Think, Do, because I do want people dreaming bigger, thinking better, and
Mhm.
doing more of what they're put on the planet to do. And that is a true passion project for me. I love, like John, I love having conversations with creative people who are doing the very things that we're talking about. That's what we do with Dream, Think, Do. And so I love it. We love putting it out into the world. So definitely invite you to check that podcast out. But, if you are one of those rock stars, the leader, the entrepreneur, the founder, and you got stuff like you literally have wisdom in you the world needs, then let's talk about you getting that out into the world in a way like we talk about walking across that
Mhm.
authority bridge to be able to have more impact, but also be able to make some more income as well. And you don't have to do it in a way where you blow up your career or blow up your life. You can do it in a way where it's very complementary to what you're currently doing, and it's amazing to see people have more impact, but also have more satisfaction as they get paid well to do it. And that's what I love to see.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, listen, thanks again, Mitch. Thank you for watching and listening. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you.